All right, let me ask you something. Have you ever actually heard the word microcomputer? I mean, it's the piece of technology that literally put a computer on your desk, then in your lap, and now right in your pocket. It completely changed the world, but here's the weird part. We don't even say its name anymore. So what was it, and where did it go? Well, let's dive in and find out. Okay, get this. All the way back in 1977, the president of a huge computer company actually said this. And you know what? At the time, that didn't sound crazy at all. It seemed totally reasonable. Today, of course, that quote is famous for being just spectacularly wrong. It perfectly captures what the world was like right on the brink of this massive, massive change. So to really get why this was such a revolution, we have to rewind. We've got to go back to a time before computers were personal. Because before the 1970s, the word computer itself, well, it meant something completely different to most people than what you and I think of today. Back then, the big players were something called mini-computers. And don't let the mini fool you. Picture these large, really expensive systems, mounted in big racks. You'd only find them in businesses or university labs. And here's the crucial part. They were multi-user systems. The whole idea was that a bunch of people had to share one single machine. But then came this totally radical new idea, the microcomputer. And it was designed from the ground up for the exact opposite. It was meant to be small, cheap, and for just one person, a truly personal computer. So how in the world did we make that incredible leap, from a shared room-sized machine to something that could sit on your desk? Well, it really all came down to one single groundbreaking invention. And this is it, the microprocessor. See, before this little chip came along, a computer's brain, its CPU, was this big collection of really expensive circuit boards all wired together. The microprocessor squeezed all of that power onto one single, tiny, low-cost chip. And that, right there, was the absolute game changer. This amazing miniaturization made the price and the size of computers just plummet. Suddenly, a machine for one person wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. And that right there brings us to the core definition. So what is a microcomputer? It's pretty simple. It's any small, inexpensive computer system that's built around one of these microprocessors. That single chip is the heart of the machine. It's its defining feature. Okay, so what actually makes up one of these things? If you boil it all down, it's really just three main parts working together. First, you've got the microprocessor, that's the brain. Then you need memory, RAM and ROM, to store all the programs and data. And finally, you have the input and output stuff, the I/O, that lets it talk to things like a keyboard or a screen. That's pretty much the basic recipe. All right, so we've got this concept, this revolutionary chip. But how did it go from being an idea to an actual machine that people could buy? Let's take a look at the very first computers that people could actually build and bring into their own homes. Now, this is the cool part. This whole revolution, it didn't start in some big corporate boardroom. No way. It started in garages and basements. The very first microcomputers weren't sold in stores all shiny and ready to go. They were sold as do-it-yourself kits to hobbyists and electronics geeks. People who were genuinely excited to sit there and assemble their own machines, often with just a few hundred bytes of memory. Crazy, right? And things moved incredibly fast. I mean, really fast. In 1975, this one kit, the Altair 8800, basically lit the fuse. It was a massive hit with hobbyists, and it created this whole new community of computer nuts. Then, just 2 years later, only 2 years, the whole game changed. That's when fully assembled machines aimed right at everyday consumers started to arrive. This was the real turning point. A so-called trinity of computers hit the scene all at once. The Apple II, the Commodore PET, and the Radio Shack TRS-80. These were the machines that took the microcomputer out of the hobbyist's workshop and put it into homes, schools, and offices across the country. I mean, for the first time ever, this powerful technology was democratized. It gave regular people the power to create, to calculate, to communicate in ways that used to be only for giant companies or governments. This right here, this was the moment the personal computer truly arrived. And it's wild to think about, but the DNA of those early machines, it's literally everywhere today. In fact, you're looking at a direct descendant of that revolution right now. I mean, just think about it for a second. Your desktop PC, that's a microcomputer. Your laptop, your tablet, even your smartphone. Yep, all modern microcomputers. And it doesn't stop there. Video game consoles, the computer that runs your car's GPS, they all fit the bill. The device you're using to watch this right now, is a direct result of that little spark way back in the 70s. But the thing that truly defines all these different devices is the core philosophy behind them. They are single-user systems. And that was the real fundamental shift. Unlike those old mini-computers where everyone had to share, the microcomputer was all about the idea of a truly personal computer. One person, one machine, total control. This empowered individuals like never before, and it unleashed a wave of creativity and innovation that is still shaping our world today. Of course, today, this family of devices is just so diverse. We classify them in all kinds of different ways. Sometimes it's about what they do, but honestly, more often it's just about their size and shape. You know, the simple difference between a portable laptop and a big, powerful desktop. So, this brings us to a really interesting question. If microcomputers are absolutely everywhere and they're the foundation of our entire digital lives, why did the word itself just kind of vanish? Well, it's a strange paradox, really. The revolution was just too successful. The word microcomputer fell out of use for one simple reason. By the late 20th century, this type of machine just wasn't special anymore. It had become the default. It was the most common type of computer in the world, period. So when you get right down to it, the microcomputer didn't disappear. It won. It was so successful that its own name became redundant. It just became what we all now call a computer. The microcomputer became invisible by becoming everything. And that really makes you wonder, right? What technology that feels so cutting edge today, maybe something like AI, will one day become so fundamental, so baked into our lives, that it doesn't even need a special name anymore? What's going to be the next revolution that disappears by simply becoming everything?